At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Good afternoon. This is Lunchtime News. I trust that you're having a lovely Friday this day, and remember that you can reach us on our social media handles at KBC Channel 1 or at Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Lucy Maura. My name is Jackie Wambiru. And to kick us off, the Ministry of Health has announced relaxation of COVID-19 containment measures following relatively fewer cases as well as positivity rates over the past couple of months. And Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe announced that Kenyans are no longer obligated to wear face masks in public spaces. And at the same time, he stated that social distancing in these spaces must still be maintained and overcrowding be avoided. At the same time, he encouraged Kenyans to keep wearing their face masks during indoor meetings where all attendees must have undertaken the jab. Well, these are some of the measures that the Ministry of Health has announced, the relaxation, that is the COVID-19 containment measures, and we shall be bringing you these reports later on. For now, we move on. Let's listen into what the Health Cabinet Secretary stated earlier on.
A hygienic nation. Number two, wearing of face masks. There has been a lot of debate and discussions on the continued use of face masks as one of the containment measures. The mandatory wearing of face masks in open public spaces is now lifted. Nonetheless, people are encouraged to maintain social distancing and avoid crowding in public spaces to ensure risk of spread is limited. We, however, encourage the use of masks in all indoor functions. The Interfaith Council will advise on the protocols in places of worship. gatherings, or in-person worship is to resume at full capacity as long as all the congregants and worshippers are vaccinated. The Interfaith Council is urged to develop protocols to facilitate resumption of full congregational worship with full capacity of venues where all congregants are vaccinated. Kenyans are once again, and I repeat, encouraged to wear face masks while inside indoor functions. Sanitizing and hand washing should be made normal practice. All in-person indoor meetings to resume at full capacity of the venue as long as all participants are vaccinated. All attendees should be encouraged to wear face masks at the meetings venues as noted. Event organizers are required to ensure that this is followed as they will take up responsibility for events on which unvaccinated persons are present. It has been noted that majority of COVID-19 cases present themselves without fever. As such, the use of temperature screening at public spaces has literal utility in current epidemiological scenarios. In this regard, therefore, the practice of temperature screening at public spaces can be stopped. However, more emphasis should be placed on ensuring that in those places, hand washing and sanitary facilities are available. On sporting activities, the Ministry of Health issues the following guidelines. To the Ministry of Sports, for resumption of sports, protocols to be revised for spectators to be allowed back into sporting venues as long as they are vaccinated without masks. The Ministry of Education to develop and implement protocols to allow for full resumption of sporting activities in learning institutions. On the issue of quarantine and isolation of confirmed cases of COVID-19, all quarantine is to be stopped with immediate effect. This applies to both vaccinated and unvaccinated persons. Positive asymptomatic cases need not isolate but shall be observed for 5 cases and return to work thereafter without the need for further testing. The return to work after isolation for those who may have been symptomatic must always take into consideration the individual's clinical status. Only those patients declared well enough to work by a qualified healthcare worker should resume work. In terms
Well, that is the Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe announcing the relaxation of COVID-19 containment measures following relatively fewer cases as well as positivity rates over the past couple of months. For now, we move on. Kenyans have been warned against speculating about the security situation in Baringo County. This follows claims that a helicopter has frequently been spotted landing on Korkoron Hills in Baringo County, where hundreds of armed bandits graze livestock. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Mohammed Maalim, however, noted that security in the area has been beefed up and the government is investigating the mystery of the white helicopter as alleged by locals.
Speaking in Kajiado after meeting the local administration, Commissioner Maalim observed that the issue of a mysterious white helicopter cropped up in his security meeting recently, adding that security operators are investigating the allegations.
Wacha tuchunguze hayo madai ambayo watu wamesema kwa sababu sina thibitisho mpaka sasa.
Maalim further assured Baringo residents that security has been beefed up, saying the government has a mechanism of identifying the said helicopter and its motive in the area, if any.
Kama serikali jukumu letu ni kuhakikisha tumefuatilia, uchunguzi umefanyika, na kama kuna ukweli tuinaze.
He called on Kenyans not to speculate on matters in security in Baringo, as a multi-agency security team is working round the clock to restore peace in the region. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
And in the political arena, One Kenya Alliance principals have officially formalized their coalition through signing of an agreement binding 6 political parties under one umbrella. During the event that saw Farmers Party and Movement for Democracy and Growth Party join the Oka Alliance, the principals Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper Democratic Movement, Gideon Moi of KANU, Martha Karua of NAK Kenya, Cyrus Jirongo of United Democratic Movement, Irongo Nyekera of Farmers Party and David Ucheng of MDG noted they were open to formation of a grand coalition but only as equal partners. The principals said they will move with speed to deposit the agreement document with the Registrar of Political Parties and are ready to go it alone if dialogue with other parties yields no fruit.
We don't want to be told this is predetermined. We want total openness, mutual respect, and equality. So that if we cede ground, we cede because we think this is the thing to do, not with a gun to our head.
Each one of them have something to add to the building blocks of the solutions for the people of Kenya.
That we have had serious introspection, serious debate with regard to the prevailing political situation in our country. And we have no doubt in our minds that this country is more important than any of us. And we have made sacrifices before. We are ready to make more sacrifices, but we also expect the Kenyans will know that no individual is indispensable.
We will talk to other formations similar to ours, but that does not put a lead on us also going it alone. We are still open, we're still discussing. There are things that are going on, and we believe if they go on well, we will be a bigger team. If not, this is a good representation of the Republic of Kenya.
This is the promise of our democracy. This that is being done this morning is the promise of our new constitution, that we as a people shall not be banded into one party or one coalition, that all of us will have a chance to be listened to and to create space for ourselves in our political affairs, and that those of us who have chosen to be here this morning have chosen the right path.
Have been waiting for, it has actually come.
Now away from matters politics, a 30-year-old man is being held in police custody after stabbing a 20-year-old colleague in the neck over political wrangle in Wione Village, Lamu County. According to Lamu East OCPD Jeffrey Osanan, the suspect fled the scene, but they were able to arrest him with the help of the locals. The family of the deceased is calling for justice.
Kimambo ya siasa kivyao tu vijana mtaani, so kulitokezea kutoelewana kati yao. Ndio mmoja kati ya hao vijana alikasirika, akaenda kuchukua kisu, akaja kudunga mwenzake kwenye shingo. Tutafanya uchunguzi wetu tujue kiini hasa ya wao kuweza kukosana kiwango kama mpaka wakadungana visu.
Na hakika tuko na maofisa wa usalama ambao wayapeleleza haya mambo, na baadaye tutapata ripoti na sisi tutawatia wao ili sheria itukue mkondo wake. Lakini tunasikitishwa kwa haya mambo ni mambo ya kikatili, na sisi tunaona magaidi wa kumwituni, kumbe pia hapa kisiwani pia kuna magaidi.
And in other news, anti-FGM campaigners have developed a digital tracking system through the People's Development Forum based in Tanzania in an effort to track and report FGM activities across borders. The online digital platform will not only help in reporting the vice, but also keep the reporter anonymous.
Fear of exposure and victimization have been identified as the main hindrances to the war on female genital mutilation along the Kenya-Tanzania border. A digital tracking system is helping change the obtaining situation, and reporters of FGM cases can now remain anonymous.
Tumeweza kutengeneza sisi kwa upande wa Tanzania system ambayo mtu anaweza kutoa pia taarifa, kwa sababu hii ukeketaji inafanyika kwenye jamii na watu wa kwenye jamii wanaelewa kitu kinaendelea pale, lakini wengi tumeona hata kwa upande wa Kenya au na kwa upande wa Tanzania unakuta watu wanaogopa kutoa taarifa kwa sababu wanaona watakuwa na matatizo na ile jamii.
The FGM digital tracking system can be accessed through a mobile phone and will report the exact location and time of day that an incident occurred.
Sasa tumetengeneza hiyo system hapo mtu anaweza kuingia tu kwa simu yake akatengeneza kama location, akaonyesha hiyo location ambayo ukeketaji unaweza kufanyika, basi polisi akaituma kwetu na sisi tunaituma kwa polisi, basi polisi wanaweza kwenda pale na kufanya rescue.
The digital system is already up and running across Tanzania, but is yet to be launched and implemented in Kenya.
For us at this particular time, we are really keen on monitoring cross-border FGM, especially this Easter that schools have closed and majority of the children or maybe girls are at home. So we are really keen on that, and also
For Lunchtime News, I'm Nisi Imano Okoth.
A cross-border peace committee consisting of locals and administrators from Narok and Kisii counties have initiated peace talks over the arson attack on a sugar farm in Transmara. The attack, which saw over 60 acres of ready-to-harvest cane razed to the ground, has caused tension in the area, with the neighboring communities trading accusations over the incident. While addressing the matter, Kisii County Commissioner Alan Machari assured the farmers that investigations into the matter are underway and surveillance has been increased so as to avert other attacks. The administrator also noted that they are in talks with the Transmara Sugar Factory to find ways to ensure mature cane does not go to waste.
We realized that at the center of the conflict is the issue of cane harvesting, whereby all the sugar cane that is being set ablaze, we realized have one commonality. It is mature cane that has been in the shamba past 24 months. That is the recommended harvesting time. And we cannot rule out the possibility of trying to accelerate the harvesting pace from the factory.
Now, Garissa County Commissioner Boaz Cherotich has assured area residents that the government is working round the clock to help all households affected by drought. Cherotich denied accusations that the government is not doing enough to cushion Kenyans against drought.
While receiving the intervention reports from agencies which will help in planning and mapping most affected populations, the county commissioner said that the government was in control of the situation.
All the 9 sub-counties have received relief food, which have been delivered and already distributed. Last week we were in Fafi to witness the distribution. The cash transfer program is very popular. Most of the agencies are doing this.
On cash transfer, Cherotich said they are working round the clock to make sure that they address issues to do with double registration. He said that the emergency cash transfer program, which was rolled out in November last year, has been a success.
And we have recommended that in order to ensure the issues of double duplication and double registration, we have a team which brings on board which brings together all departments doing cash transfer activities, so that we now have that data. This will reduce cases of duplication.
The February drought assessment done by the National Drought Management Authority shows that the county is at a crisis level where at least 20% of the population had been affected by the drought. The drought situation in Garissa is currently at crisis level, and the situation may move to emergency if it doesn't rain in the months of April and May. Beatrice Gatonyengetich, Lunchtime News.
Moving on, over 10,000 residents who have been internally displaced following last week's banditry attacks in Baringo South, Nyembei and Mochongoi areas have received relief from the Kenya Red Cross Society and the Baringo County government. The donations will benefit the 965 households displaced from Kasiela, Sinoni and Kapkusum villages. Recent attacks have claimed 7 lives. Baringo Governor Stanley Kiptis, while distributing food and other basic supplies to the residents, welcomed security measures put in place by Rift Valley Coordinator Mohamed Maalim and urged the government to move first to resettle internally displaced persons.
Kwa muda mfupi sana ya mwaka moja tumepoteza watu 17 kwa sababu serikali wametoa oda hatushutu keep, watafute au wahalifu kule msituni na wafurushe kutoka kule msituni. Wakitoka pale, wale ambao ni wakulima wataendelesha kipindi yao kulima kwa njia mzuri.
Ninaomba mali ya kulala, sina chochote. Kipata kidogo napata itoe. Nipata tu usingizi. Nafunika na ishuka. Niko hivyo peke yangu. Na sina mengi ya kusema, nimesema asante Mungu juu mmefika, nikasikia chakula iko, nikasema acha niambie watoto wangu wapate kitu.
Still on health matters, 2 children have died of malnutrition since October last year in WAJIR County, while more than 10 are admitted weekly in various health facilities. WAJIR County Referral Hospital Chief Executive Officer Dr. Mohamed Bashir says 21.7% of children in the region have severe acute malnutrition, a situation attributed to persistent drought.
The ongoing drought in WAJIR County has drastically affected livestock keepers in the region and beyond. The aftermath is dwindling milk production, whose ripple effect is malnutrition among children.
The president has declared a drought emergency much earlier in this year, but where it has reached, I'm appealing to His Excellency to send out special teams to actually upgrade the knowledge and what we know, and also upgrade the operation to support those who are affected.
WAJIR County Referral Hospital Chief Executive Officer Dr. Mohamed Bashir and Head of Malnutrition Nuria Ibrahim say 11 children suffering from severe acute malnutrition are receiving treatment at the facility.
To know that malnutrition tends to makes you weaker to get diseases like pneumonias and diarrheas and all that. So it becomes a vicious cycle. A child becomes sick, they end up becoming malnourished, and when they become malnourished, they become more severe. So we have lost about 2 children from severe acute malnutrition since October last year.
But now some has also doubled. It is now 4.3%, which is also high, and currently the gum is at critical. So the gum is at critical is 21.9%, which is not good.
Leaders in the area, led by former Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Mohamed Ibrahim Elmi, say the situation needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency.
The trend tends to be increasing, and we are anticipating the numbers to increase, especially in our wards. The pediatric ward will most likely be overwhelmed by children who have severe acute malnutrition.
We scale up now instead of waiting when people have died. We need to increase our cash transfers and increase the food rations that are coming. The health sector and nutrition sector, this is the time to come in before the children, majority of them, go into serious malnutrition.
And the county government to intervene and bring enough food, especially for the children who are under 5 years.
This is even as they appeal for swift intervention to cushion residents against effects of drought.
Said per week usually receive more than 10. Compared to the previous, the admission is very high.
Children. The most vulnerable at the moment are children, lactating mothers, and pregnant mothers, and the elderly. And I just want to make an appeal to all government, all agencies, individuals, that we take this drought serious. In a few weeks, the toll of deaths, the human to human, will be very high.
Now, following the announcement of the Ministry of Health on the relaxation of COVID-19 containment measures, remember some of the measures include whereby Kenyans are no longer obligated to wear face masks in public spaces. We shall be joining our reporter in Mombasa County, Michael Mwandiga, who shall be giving us an update on the reactions of Kenyans following these announcements. Mwandiga, kindly bring us to speed.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Jackie Wambiru. You are coming to you live from the streets of Mombasa County. And just a while ago, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has lifted a ban of wearing masks in public places, and in so doing, this translates that in places of worship where congregants will be congregating for masses, which means that they'll be back in full capacity. In so doing, also in the transport sector. And I'm hereby joined by residents of Mombasa County just to get their reactions on what this means to them. Kaka karibu, ni kwamba katika muda ambao si mrefu ambao umepita ni kwamba waziri wa afya Mutahi Kagwe ameondoa yale makataa ama ile sheria ya kuweza kuvaa maski katika maeneo ya umma. Mmelichukulia vipi swala hili kama wakazi wa Mombasa?
Nafikiri tumelichukulia kwa furaha, kwa sababu kusema kweli tumekuwa na mambo ya maski kwa muda mrefu, na kwa sasa vile kunaonekana vile ugonjwa umeenda chini, nafikiri ni jambo la busara na jambo njema amefanya. Na vile amesema kanisani watu waende wote, pia ni jambo muhimu. Wakati huu wakati wa siasa, tunaenda kuombea mambo ya siasa na mambo ya nchi yetu. Kwa hivyo naona amefanya jambo la busara sana.
Na asante sana. And also there are other residents of Mombasa County who just give their reactions. Kaka karibu, hatua hii umeichukulia vipi? Angalia, tazama kamera.
Hatua ya leo ya Mutahi Kagwe ni nzuri sana, kwa sababu kuna limits zilikuwa zinawekwa kwa serikali na vitu mbalimbali kama restaurant, kuna times zilikuwa zinawekwa. Sasa ninaona ujumbe utaboleka vizuri, na watu wengi wale walisimamishwa kazi watasarudi kwa kazini mwao kujitafutia. Na mambo ya maski amefanya vizuri, kwa sababu kuna watu wengine ambao hata kununua hiyo maski ya shilingi 10 ni shida. Kwa hivyo ametusaidia na serikali, na huu ujumi utainuka juu, kwa sababu watu wengi wamelala kwa sababu ya corona. Tunashukuru sana kwa hayo.
Okay, those are just the reactions from people in Mombasa County, and there's also one who come forward. Just tell us, lifting of this ban, what does it mean to you, people of Mombasa County?
Asante sana. Kwa majina yangu ni Jacob Mwangi, mtetezi wa haki za kibinadamu kupitia kwa shirika Rahat Passion International. Kuinuliwa ama kuondolewa kwa kuvaa
Well, those are some of the views from Kenyans in Mombasa County. This follows the announcement by the Ministry of Health on the relaxation of some of the COVID-19 containment measures. For now, we shall be taking a short break. And when we come back, we still have more news coming up. Don't go too far.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Be right here. Be right here. You invested millions of shillings doing something that won't even help you in future.
I will never support a stupid career that you wasted my money on behind my back.
You will make a perfect doctor, just like your grandfather. Apparently, Lenny is missing.
So, I am not sick.
You have a problem.
You drink too much. I am not going to work with an artist who doesn't know his priorities. I want my drink. I want your drink. Where is my drink? I want to be right here. Be right here.
Welcome back. Still in the political arena, the Orange Democratic Movement has threatened to remove from office Kakamega Deputy Governor Professor Philip Kutima days after he defected to the Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya. The ODM party, through Kakamega County Youth Leader Moffat Mandela, wants Professor Kutima to resign, a failure to which they will petition for his removal in accordance to the law.
As the race to succeed Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya intensifies, a section of Orange Democratic Movement leadership from Kakamega are vowed to eject Kakamega Deputy Governor Professor Philip Kutima.
We remind Professor Philip Msebe Kutima to hand in his resignation letter as Deputy Governor of Kakamega County to the Governor, His Excellency Wycliffe Oparanya, with immediate effect, now that he has lost faith in the party that sponsored him during the last general elections. The law must be upheld, otherwise we will proceed to petition for his removal in accordance with the law.
Professor Kutima, who has shown interest in the Kakamega gubernatorial seat, jumped ship to Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya, DAPK. However, his defection appeared to have angered the ODM party, who now want him replaced with someone loyal to the party.
We thank him for the years he has deputized Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, and regret that the shoes of succeeding the high-performing governor appears too big for his feet. We also
amekalia pale kwa sababu ya chama na ametoka kwa chama, yeye atoke apane nafasi, watu wengine wa chama pia washikilia, hata kama imebaki miezi 6 pia wengine wapate hiyo mshahara, inaweza kusaidia la.
ODM bado iko imara na ni tsunami. Kuondoka kwa wale wachache wenye wameondoka kwa chama ambao ni Professor Philip Kutima ambaye amekuwa kama deputy governor wetu hakubadilishi chochote kwa chama cha ODM.
Meanwhile, an educationist Daniel Mogoria has entered the Busia gubernatorial race and will seek election on a Democratic Alliance Party of Kenya ticket if he sails through the nomination process.
Busia, when it comes to income, we are doing 322 million per year when we are supposed to be doing 1.2 billion. So my first task in office is to ensure that we improve revenue and ensure that the revenue streams are increased. If not increased, they are utilized as stated in the Finance Act that is ever passed by the County Assembly every financial year.
And meanwhile, former university student leader Fuama Wamba has joined the long list of Nairobi governorship aspirants. The 42-year-old has pledged to improve service delivery and stem out corruption in the county.
I'm not going to compete with other people on the basis of their strengths. Their strengths include theft of public resources, include having a lot of money from dubious backgrounds. My strength here is about the welfare of the Nairobians. My strength here is ensuring that the gap between the rich and the poor is minimized. The lowest person should not go hungry while the richest person is having extra.
Ben Chumba, Lunchtime News.
Women leaders in Kibra have decried the low number of girls from the area joining institutions of higher learning. Jane Horan's secondary school that rescues young mothers from the area to further their education cites lack of role models as a hindrance to women's development in Kibra. Our reporter Ruth Wamboy spent the day with the girls and filed the following report.
At the heart of Kibra lies one of the oldest secondary schools in the area, Starrays.
Sometimes you fail to get what you want, but life must continue. So, life is about attitude. So your life in Starrays is coming to an end.
As we enter the school, we find the proprietor Jane Akeo giving the girls sitting for their KCSE next week some life tips.
Yes, now you're going to be a young mother, because now you will be home and you will be the mother to your child. So you will need to know how is the child surviving from morning to evening.
The school is mixed boarding and day scholars, hosting boys and girls. She narrates to us the circumstances which led to the start of the school that has become a safe haven for young mothers from the slums.
The government had just stopped employing teachers, and so there were a lot of teachers lying out. So being a group of trained teachers, but with no jobs, we decided to come up with a learning center. And because Kibra wasn't having a school, and majority of the youths had not gone to school because they didn't have the opportunity, it turned out to be the Starrays High School that we have today.
Susan, not her real name, expressing gratitude for getting a second chance to continue with her education.
Marafiki wengine sasa venye walijua walikuwa niambia nifanye nini ni abort, but me sikuweza ku abort. Sasa wazazi walisema watanilea na bado nitarudi shule. Principal akakuja kaongea na wazazi akasema anaweza rudi shule, lakini sasa vitu zangu zilikuwa shule, nilikuwa nimetoka. Sasa nikaona ni ngumu kukuja shule na niko na ball.
And with the recent marking of the International Day for Women, she has a special message to the government and women aspiring for political leadership in the country.
That's why we have come out in large numbers today to help educate women about the 2/3 gender rule, that we will never achieve it until women support their fellow women. If you go to the Nairobi City County today, out of the 85 MCAs, only 5 are elected women. And so they are not able to pass. They are not able to pass any law. They are not able to do anything because they are few. And so I have worked with this community for quite some time. But I've realized there is a miss. And in this election 2022, I am vying for Sarangombe MCA. My main reason of vying for Sarangombe MCA is to empower people at their level.
The safe haven for girls has been on for 25 years now. Some assertive women out here are doing their best to help young girls who have lost hope in life. Reporting from Sarangombe, Kibra constituency, Nairobi County, I'm Ruth Wamboy.
Making headlines in the business world, vandals have struck Kenya's critical infrastructure again, disrupting the construction of the 63-kilometer high-voltage power line to Narok County. The Vision 2030 project, which started in 2019, is expected to stabilize the power supply to Narok County, continues to experience serious power disruptions. According to Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, vandals struck in Narasha area on the border of Narok and Naivasha, cutting away over 3,000 meters of the transmission cables and other critical components.
Vandalism of critical state infrastructure has crippled some sectors of the economy, crippling economic activities. In the last 6 months, criminals have disrupted power lines transport on the standard gauge line, highway infrastructure, among others. President Uhuru Kenyatta in January 2022 banned scrap metal business to curb the vice. However, the move appears to have done little to dissuade vandals targeting critical infrastructure nestled in the country's rural areas.
Before we reported everything to Suswa police station, and after all, theft started again.
Walikuwa wanaiba siku moja, wanakaa siku mbili. Tuseme wanaiba kuanzia kwa hii tawa mpaka ile. Wanaiba kwa hiyo tawa, wanakaa siku mbili. Wanakaa siku mbili tena, wanaiba kwa hiyo tawa ingine.
In the latest incident, vandals have hit sections of the 68-kilometer 132 kilovolt double circuit transmission line from Olkaria to Narok in Narasha area on the border of Narok and Naivasha, cutting away over 3,000 meters of transmission cables. The high voltage line, funded by the government of Kenya and the African Development Bank AFDB, was set to increase electricity access within Narok County and its surrounding areas.
Kama inawezekana, serikali ifuatilie kwa umakinifu, ijue ni nani ambaye anahusika katika hii wizi, ni nani ambaye anapelekewa hizi makebles, si ati ni hapa Maimayu.
Kitraku says the line will transform the areas into attractive locations of agro-based and general industries, thus going a long way in supporting devolved governments. Residents say strangers have so far been successful in cutting away materials worth millions of shillings in unknown cars, even as the government moves to intensify criminal dragnets.
Wafukuza wengine walibeba cable ya internet hadi tukawashika Suswa, na watu walitoka Nairobi Githurai. So it seems not people from this area.
Narok County and surrounding areas have been hit by power fluctuations that has been experienced between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m, affecting industries and local businesses. The line has been under construction since July 2019 by China CMC Engineering Company Limited. Alanaoko, Lunchtime News.
Aircraft operators may have to switch out their flight monitoring technology with the latest models if the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority mandates the use of real-time flight data monitoring systems next week. Navigation system manufacturers say the sector has a large security gap that has caused human and economic losses through untraceable flights, which will be a thing of the past once instant communication is established with aircraft en route.
The International Civil Aviation Organization had highlighted the need for operators to pursue global tracking of aircrafts once they leave airports, following the increased disappearances of aircrafts like the infamous Malaysia Airline flight MH370 in 2014. Local authorities were then told to guide the technological change, with a timeline for a mandatory change set to the end of this year.
Through a scientific, analytical analysis of where facts will be looked at about the performance and the health monitoring of all aircraft systems, including cockpit, of what's going on with the airplanes in real transfer of data in real time, from the time that the airplane is actually powered up on the ground through electrical power, and right to the end of the flight profile when we shut down the airplane and close the doors.
While ICAO had mandated its regulations, there are certain countries, there are certain regions in the world that they have mandated this kind of flight following plus identification of the aircraft in distress.
Aviation manufacturers expressed their concerns on the matter, stating that most airlines are left in the dark when aircrafts leave the airport until they are in close range of their destination for them to be traced again. They say this loophole has caused massive losses in the aviation industry that could be easily avoided if flight operators migrated to new data monitoring systems that establishes constant real-time tracking to air traffic control towers.
Any kind of accident occurring, again, from small aircraft to the largest one, where life is lost and damage to equipment, it becomes extremely expensive and regretful.
This was established during a flight operator sensitization meeting, where stakeholders in the sector showed assent to the proposed technological change. Key infrastructure players have noted the need for standardization of such matters, saying there is a disparity in the operationality of aircrafts in the country, which often adds to avoidable setbacks.
I do believe then there would be need for some standardization in terms of technology and also in terms of data. There is tremendous innovation that's taking place in terms of safety for the aircraft and also for the passengers. And I think if these standards are able to be implemented by Africa as a whole, then we'll be able to set a very good standard which every airline player may be able to conform with.
Hibak Saeed for Lunchtime News.
Kenyan farmers are feeling the impact of climate change with dwindling harvests and changing planting seasons. The evolving environment is already affecting Kenyan agriculture productivity, and the problem is likely to get worse in the future, according to climate experts. Japhet Bayer, a farmer from a village in Kilifi County, is a victim of climate change. His livelihood has changed for the worse as poor rainfall has ensured his once lucrative crop production dwindled due to poor rainfall distribution. Bayer's village now relies on the government's food rations for survival, even as his community faces a highly uncertain future. Nduta Mukami reports.
Kenya's climate is changing even as the world's temperature levels continue to climb. The government says the mean annual temperature is projected to increase between 0.8 and 1.5 degrees Celsius by the 2030s and 1.6 degrees to 2.7 degrees Celsius by 2060 if the current trajectory is maintained. This will be bad for the agriculture sector, which contributes about 27% of Kenya's annual wealth and is the economic mainstay in rural Kenya. The main driver of climate change is the greenhouse effect. Some gases in the Earth's atmosphere act a bit like the glass in a greenhouse, trapping the sun's heat and stopping it from leaking back into the space and causing global warming. Many of these greenhouse gases occur naturally, but human activity is increasing the concentrations of some of them in the atmosphere. Japhet Bayer is an old farmer in Kilifi County, one of the worst affected by the changing weather patterns.
Kadiri miaka ilivyoendelea kulingana na ufahamu wangu ni kwamba hizi mvua zilianza kupungua na zikaanza kubadilisha nyakati za kunyesha.
For many years now, Bayer and many other farmers in his village have made numerous attempts to change their farming techniques to cope with the erratic rainfall. Water required for food production has become more scarce, which has now made farmers seek alternative means for survival, such as selling charcoal. The situation is dire, with many people giving up on farming. The village is now pleading with the government to construct dams and water pans to help with their dwindling fortunes and dying livestock. But for now, crop farming is becoming a mission impossible, forcing the residents of Kilifi County to resort to extreme means of survival. The Ministry of Agriculture, however, says that all is not lost with the new innovations like the Smart Agriculture Project that seeks to train farmers on new sustainable farming models.
What we've been really impressed by is that those opportunities are there.
But for Bayer and his village folks, the best they can do is to peep into the horizon and hope that it will bring good fortunes even as prospects become dim with each passing day.
The world we know as of today is currently faced with different dynamic situations, climate change being the biggest elephant in the room. Here in Nairobi, we are now recording high temperatures of 29 degrees Celsius in the month of March, where we normally experience short rains. Japhet Bayer, a farmer in Kilifi County, is now seeking government intervention to mitigate some of the adverse effects climate change has had on his family and his livelihood.
Nduta Mukami for Lunchtime News.
The future of agriculture in Kenya is at a crossroad with aging farmers, erratic weather and expensive inputs. The government has drafted various policies to enlist young people into the sector, which contributes 35% to Kenya's gross domestic product. To encourage more young people to join agribusiness, a Brighter Monday has started a project aimed at matching a local youth skill set with potential employers in the agriculture sector.
The average agriculture workforce stands at 65 years, with most youth shunning the sector due to a myriad of issues. According to a study by Heifer International, though African youths have turned away from farming, they are still keen on tapping opportunities in the sector's value chain. The government has developed various policies aimed at deepening the participation of young people in the agriculture sector. The Germany Development Corporation and Brighter Monday has started a project to align youth skill set with the workforce demands in the sector.
And that soft skills has become a key issue and one of the biggest challenges. So people have an education, they have the ability, but they are not able to present that to meet the employer in the same place.
It has been said widely that the youth are averse to agriculture. But what I know is that the youth are restless for money.
The project, dubbed Vijana na Kilimo, will also offer digital access to dignified job opportunities for 10,000 youth in agriculture food sector, as well as offer training to improve the youth agriculture skill sets.
Speaking to all these young people and ensuring that we're taking them through a program that changes the position of linking them with opportunities within the agribusiness space.
Experts say if well exploited, Western Kenya has the potential to boost Kenya's food situation and create employment for millions of people in the region.
We've been hunters and gatherers in the lake, and it's time we find is not sustainable because any ecosystem is elastic. We are approaching the elasticity limit of our lakes in terms of production, and unless we change the way we think, then we'll hand over nothing to posterity.
Benson Ruba reporting for Lunchtime News.
We now cross over to Embu County, where farmers have been encouraged to make use of the forthcoming rains to improve their crop and animal production. The rains set to start in mid-March are expected to boost production in the area.
Climate change directly affects the agricultural system that has a predictable influence on the socio-economic system in all the regions of the world. Farmers in Embu County will now be favored thanks to the onset of the rains expected to start in mid-March this year that will also see even the dry parts of Mbeere South and its counterparts receive good distribution of rainfall. Embu County Director of Meteorological Services James Gathura said that the rains will not be so intense as to cause hazardous wreckage.
Na watu wote hapa Embu wataiunderstand wakati ule because ni kitu ya maana sana. Vile tutakuwa tunafanya weather focus yetu hapa. Kama ni location kama vile watu wanaulizaga kwani hapa kwetu hamuongei mapa yake, tutakuwa location specific.
Livestock Officer Augustus Kiema cautioned farmers to also be wary of animal parasites and diseases that were associated with wet conditions such as worms, ticks and diseases like foot rot and take necessary prevention and control measures. Locals were also encouraged to make use of proper water catchment areas through installation of water storage structures that would ensure they had surplus left even after the rainy season was over.
Tunawahimiza wachukue hii fursa, take advantage, harvest a lot of their water runoff, harvest pia the roof water, maji ile inatoka kwa roof catchment, hiyo harvest yote for the purposes of fodder and pasture production.
Nduta Mukami for Lunchtime News.
Fuel shortages in Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, have caused two of its largest domestic airlines to cancel some internal flights and delay others this week. At Nigeria's busiest airports in Lagos and Abuja, aircraft scheduled to fly on Tuesday were parked for hours waiting for fuel. Two of Nigeria's biggest airlines, Air Peace and Arik Air, said they had to cancel some domestic flights and delay others as fuel shortages continue in the country.
Air Peace said it was likely to experience flight disruptions in the coming days. Unfortunately, the fuel scarcity is starting to seriously impact the operations. Arik Air, on the other hand, delayed nearly all of its flights on Tuesday and cancelled others. Despite being Africa's largest oil producer, Nigeria imports almost all of its jet fuel. Motorists have also been suffering from severe fuel shortages at the pumps for weeks. Global oil prices have hit a 14-year peak after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the EU has revised upwards its investments in Morocco over the next 7 years to 8.4 billion euros to support job creation, sustainable agriculture and renewable energy. This investment pledge will also aim to support the digital transition and small and medium-sized businesses. Marks a sharp increase from 1.6 billion euros announced by the European Commission early last month. It is part of a plan dubbed Global Gateway that aims to increase connectivity between the EU and its partners. International financial partners, Morocco's private sector, and Israel will contribute to this investment effort. Finally, MultiChoice's Nigerian business says it expects a $4.4 billion tax dispute to be resolved soon as Nigerian tax authorities began a forensic audit and a settlement with the South African pay TV group. Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service froze the company's accounts in June and served MultiChoice Group with a $4.4 billion tax claim for its Nigeria operation and a $342 million tax claim for value-added taxes. South Africa's MultiChoice, spun off in 2019 from Naspers, makes a third of its revenues elsewhere on the continent, with Nigeria its biggest market outside its home market.
In other news, U.S. inflation has hit 7.9% due to food and fuel price increase in the last 2 months. Consumer inflation in the country is said to have risen at the fastest annual pace in 40 years. Here are the details of these and much more from across the globe.
The US and other parts of the world are grappling with high inflation for months as a surge in demand, fueled in part by pandemic aid, ran into supply constraints, labor shortages and other issues. The consumer price index last month rose by 0.8% from January, when it was at 0.6%. The war in Ukraine has added to the problem, driving a global surge in energy prices as the West and allies shun oil from Russia, which is typically responsible for about 7% of the global supply. Over the past 12 months, the energy index has soared more than 25%, with gasoline surging at 38%. Meanwhile, Russia has imposed an export ban on more than 200 products, which will apply until the end of 2022. The ban list covers items ranging from medical equipment and agricultural machinery to railway cars and turbine motors. Specific products like train coaches, locomotives, containers, metal and stone processing machines, screens, projectors, and operation panels are also included. The country has also temporarily restricted the export of timber and wood products to certain unfriendly countries and areas. The government has added that the measures are a necessary method to guarantee Russia's market stability. Finally, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement has provided a major boost for trade in China, having exempted over 11 million yuan of custom duties for enterprises since its implementation at the beginning of 2022. The agreement, which groups together 10 associations of Southeast Asian countries, along with China, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand, is the largest free trade pact ever forged in the world and covers nearly a third of the world's population as well as 30% of global gross domestic product. The eastern port city of Shanghai is among the top beneficiaries of the agreement, with local enterprises enjoying over 11.73 million yuan of tariff reduction up to date.
Now, in other news, Russian President Vladimir Putin has backed plans to send volunteer fighters to Ukraine. Putin, speaking at a Russian Security Council meeting, said those who wanted to volunteer to fight with Russia-backed forces should be allowed to. 2 Ukrainian soldiers were killed and 6 were injured in a Russian attack on the city of Lutsk, according to the head of the regional administration, Yuri Pahulyak.